I'm your host, Simon Rushton. Today we have a collaboration, to be honest. A lovely lady by the name of Jenny. Her company is SABIA, which means Start a Business in Africa. I like the acronym. It's got me already. This lady's born in Cameroon. She has a father from Cameroon and her mother's Nigerian. She's lived and traveled around. She's lived in Germany, she's lived in Cameroon, and she's lived in England. She's had 7 years of doing business in Africa. She believes in Pan-Africanism for those of us who are, big on the diaspora aspect, which I'm all for, especially with this corona thing going on, and then want to test it in the mother country, but that's another conversation for another time. And yeah, when we met, I just felt this is another, I got speaking to Jenny and I found out what she's doing. I just felt this is somebody I had to have on the show because she's had experience, she has knowledge, and she's doing her thing in real time today. Yeah. So we're happy to have you, Jenny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for having me, Simon.
It's okay. It's okay. So tell us, what's a typical day like in doing business in Africa, whether you're on the English side or in the African side?
Well, it all depends. Like I said to you, I live my life sort of like in both continents, mostly in the UK, but also in South Africa, where I run a few businesses with my family members, my sisters, and some other family members. We've also got businesses in Cameroon, so it's kind of like all over the place if you want to say it that way. But a typical day for me is mostly all about SABIA. It's all about helping people start businesses in Africa, encouraging people to start businesses in Africa. You've got different types of people from different backgrounds, different stories, different capitals, different ambitions, so it's all about talking to these different types of people, individuals, helping them figure out what they want to start, where. So that's a typical life for me. I wouldn't say daily because I still have a day job. I still have a day job, but I love what I do because I don't have to do it, the whole year. I can have contracts where I work a few months and then the rest of the time I'm focusing on businesses in Africa. But on a daily, yes, it's all about starting a business in Africa.
What kind of businesses, just so the listeners can get a feel, what kind of businesses are you in?
Oh, okay. I won't go too deep into that. My main business right now is SABIA, obviously. I work with people as a consultant. I do get paid for that. Also, I do quite a few public speaking appearances where I do talk at events. But the businesses that I run with my family members or my sisters are mostly to help. Well, we have one major one, which is to help students find universities or into different unis. Well, we work mostly with French-speaking countries in Africa, where we help students, the equivalent of A-levels, which is baccalaureate in those French-speaking countries, to find acceptance or to find universities abroad, not necessarily in Europe. We mostly work with South African universities. And so these students we help them find, we help them with their paperwork, we help them communicate with the universities, we help them with accommodations, we help them, because for French-speaking countries, when you go into an English-speaking country, you have to do about a year English classes. Even if your level is really good, you still have to go through that. So we help them get into English schools. But recently, we also started an English school where we put our students into those English schools before sending them to the universities. So that's one part of what we do.
That's good. So you're strong in the education side. I like that. I like the fact that you're actually looking at sending students from within the continent to another part of the continent instead of to the corona areas.
Yeah, exactly. And now we're looking more into countries such as Kenya. We're looking more at countries such as Ghana as well, where they have more interesting universities and better teachers and so on. So we're looking at those areas as well, those countries as well.
Okay, that's something that you and I could talk even more about another
Yeah.
time. One of
Okay.
my contracts we have is on the maritime industry.
Okay.
And I know I believe there's an IMO, International Maritime Organization, down in SA, but
Mm-hmm.
in the rest of Africa, it's quite barren, to say
Yeah.
the least. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. We're probably going to get into it, but yes, there's everything to do in Africa. Literally, there is so much to be done. But yeah, we'll get into that, I suppose. Yeah.
What made you make the decision to invest in Africa? Because you came to England,
Mm-hmm.
you spent your time in England, you got educated, and a lot of people actually lose themselves and just focus on, oh, I'm in England now, or I'm in America, and kind of forget where they came from. What made you decide I'm going to reinvest?
I think it was a series of different things that happened. I kind of like found it sad to see some of my friends who had never been to Africa. And back in the day, it was almost like a shame to say you were African, of African descent. You know, people seem to find that embarrassing. And I didn't get it, because to me, it was like, I used to think that that's the best continent. You know, people are so welcoming, interesting. There are issues. There are a packload of issues. We don't disagree on that. But it's an amazing place. You know, there is so much to do. There is so much to learn about the continent. There is so much going on over there. Why would anyone not want to associate themselves with the African continent? And so that was something that always puzzled me. And even those who were born and raised in Africa, once they are able to leave the continent, it's a total disconnect with the continent, where they would be insulting their countries. Oh, that place is this and that, and I hate there, I'm never going back there again. And it was almost like self-hatred, and I just couldn't understand that. I can understand that you'll be angry with the continent or your country for political reasons or whatever, but to then completely dissociate yourself from where you were raised, where your ancestors come from, where your parents come from, I just couldn't understand that. And I think something that really resonated with me was, I was working for a really long time for the London Borough of Lewisham. And obviously I was working for the children and young people department. And I saw a lot of suffering, a lot of misery, you know, children being taken away from their parents for different reasons, abuse, and what you can guess. And so I thought, oh, the second thing was that each time I used to tell people I'm from Cameroon, they'd always ask me, where's Cameroon? What do they do over there? If they do know anything about Cameroon, they would know about
Football.
etofis, football.
Yeah.
That's it. They know nothing else. And so I thought, no, but there's so much more about Cameroon. And so I thought, you know what? I need to give back to my country, because obviously working for Lucian, you know, it's a work where you have to have a big heart, where you have to, you cannot but care for people and see in certain conditions. And I thought I could do something in my country. I could bring more interest into my country, into Cameroon. And so I went back to Cameroon, and I thought, okay, we'll work at bringing in investors, because there's a lot to do in Cameroon. There's a lot of resources. I mean, Cameroon is called Africa in miniature. So just so you know, Cameroon is a tiny, tiny country compared to, for example, Nigeria. But inside Cameroon, you've got about 250 ethnical groups, you know, with different dialect, different cultures, different everything. So that's an absolutely amazing country. And
What?
so I went back.
Sorry, what does that? You just so the listeners know. So I don't know either.
Okay.
That saying that you said, Cameroon's known as Africa
In
miniature.
miniature, yeah. So it's like a tiny Africa, if you want.
Oh,
We've got
tiny Africa.
everything in there.
So,
It's like a melting pot of Africa. There's everything in there. You
okay.
know, we've got Muslims and Christians, like the whole northern part of Cameroon, Adamawa, what we call far north. It's all Muslim, and then the rest of the country is Christian, and then you have non-Christians as well, whatever. And then you've got another part, or you've also got English-speaking an English-speaking part of the country and a French-speaking part of the country. You've got all these different cultures that are living together. Yes, you do have issues, obviously, when you have so many different cultures and so many different dialects and so many different people, even in general, living together. You will have some issues, but we've been able to live with each other, even in those conditions, without having a civil war so far. And I pray it remains so. But yeah, Cameroon is an absolutely amazing country, and it's something that I needed. I just felt the need for the world to see this, to know more about this amazing country. And so I went back to Cameroon, and my initial plan was to create something that I'd called Mon Cameroun, which means my Cameroon. That's the French version. I wish I could say that in a French in a Cameroonian dialect, but yeah, it is what it is. And so it's called Mon Cameroun. And so we worked at bringing Cameroon to the world through the internet, a
Okay,
website.
that's that's good. What's the most valuable lesson you've learned from doing business in Africa?
Hmm. My initial one was patience.
Uh,
That one was a shock. I because you were born somewhere and you grew up somewhere and you think you know the place, you think you know everything there is to know about the country you were born in, and the first thing you realize is that you don't know anything, literally. One thing that I did once I was there is I did a mini tour of the country. Well, not the mini tour, I did a full tour of the country. So I went absolutely everywhere, to all the different regions, but for the far north, because at that time was a time where Boko Haram had come in from Nigeria and they had abducted, I think, a French family back then. And so we weren't allowed to go to the far north. But besides that, I'd literally been everywhere in Cameroon. And that was to this day, the best experience of my life. It was absolutely beautiful. I went everywhere. People were so welcoming. You know, we could stay anywhere. People would give us all the information we needed. I built an amazing database of information in different, contacts, and it was absolutely amazing. But one thing that I learned, because when I was going to Cameroon, I knew all these things. I had discovered all these things being abroad, and I thought I'll get in there and I would change their lives, and I would teach them this, and I'll show them that, and I would change lives, and I'll bring all this stuff. And what the country or the continent actually tells you is slow down. you know you're not our messiah. Relax. We've got our way of doing things. You need to learn that too. Learn about us, and then we will tell you how we want to work, which is something that I totally agree with. That sort of messiah's arrogance that some of us have when going to the African continent and thinking that we know better than everybody else. We don't have to have a system that's exactly copied on the Western system. We can adapt certain things, but it will never be the same way. And trying to force that on the African continent actually causes a lot of issues. And so yeah, I had to learn patience, a lot of patience. I learned a lot about corruption and how to deal with corruption as well. That's a different topic. But yeah, that was really important. And I was a young girl back then, and you're going in and out of different offices and different ministries, and you have all these very interesting gentlemen, trying to tell you stories and trying to find out what you're doing in the evening, and so you have to wiggle your way out of all of that. And yeah, Africa is interesting. I mean, you have to live it to understand it. It's just amazing.
a lot of the things you say I can totally relate to, from the
Yeah,
corruption to just the colonial. Even though, well, I'm obviously I'm black, but my parents are Jamaican heritage. But I
yeah,
found that I
hmm,
did go there with a messiah. I'm going to help people, and I'm going to
yeah,
this that, and you can get played on because of that, but you
yeah,
also get put in your place very
yeah.
quickly.
Exactly.
They're going to do it.
Africans are most African countries. I don't like to say Africa because it's a continent, it's not a country, but we are kind of like alike, and we're very proud people. We know who we are, we know where we come from. For most of us, yes, there's a lot of unhappiness due to some political issues and so on, and poverty, but we're proud people. Africans don't just need handouts. They need, if you give a man a job. He would rather be able to wake up every morning, go and get a job, rather than sitting down and you giving them handouts. So Africans are proud people. And so coming in there and telling them, no, the way you've been doing it is the wrong way. This is how to do it. That's very arrogant. There is a way to do it. You can say that you can help better the way business is done or the way things are done on the continent. But yeah, you have to learn to, when you come into the continent, you have to first of all sit down, observe, learn, and then, you know, try to implement whatever it is you want to implement on the continent.
Is there anything that you would do different?
Probably not. And I'll tell you why. Probably not, because if I didn't make some of the mistakes that I made, I probably wouldn't be where I am right now. And I wouldn't have learned some of the things that I learned right now. If I hadn't been through what I've been through, and if I hadn't made some of the mistakes that I'd made, I probably wouldn't have SABIA right now, because I would have businesses on the African continent, but I wouldn't have SABIA, which is encouraging other people to do this, telling them, no, it's doable. I know what scares you. I know what the issues are, and I know how to deal with them. This is how we can do it. This is how I did it. This is how I think you can do it. If everything went smoothly and, you know, I had no regrets and everything was fantastic, I wouldn't be able to stand in the position I stand right now with SABIA. And so I think that everything was necessary. I lost a lot of money. I mean, my first business never happened. You know, I trusted a lot of people who just abused my trust, like I told you about corruption and how I dealt with it. So yes, in retrospect, there are a lot of things that I could have done differently, but I have no regrets. I don't think I would have wanted that. Just for me to be in the position I am in right now with SABIA, I think that was a good thing that I went through some of those things.
I was asked the same question yesterday, as it goes, and
Okay.
you've had exactly the same response that I had.
There you
really,
go.
even I've lost money, I've made
Yeah,
bad decisions, but at the end of the day, it's that experience that is more priceless than any degree, any masters, any
exactly.
PhD.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the another fear that most people have, is the thought of having to drop everything and relocate to Africa, because most people think that they absolutely have to do that. And so what we're trying to do now is show people different ways for them to still invest on the continent or do business on the continent without having to fully relocate or, you know, move your whole life to Africa. You don't need to do that anymore that way, which is why some people like you and I had to go through that path, so that others don't necessarily have to go through it, you know, find ways for them to do business easier, you know, than what we had to experience in our time.
So at present, just to confirm, you kind of hotbeds, as in nations, between Cameroon, South Africa, I think. How do you find that you have that do you find that you wouldn't be able to run the business without being there totally, or do you see a future in the hotbedding style of doing business?
Oh, 100%. My ultimate goal is obviously to move back to Africa. That's 100%. It's not even an argument, you know. But I've now got my base in Africa. You know, I've got people I work with everywhere, people that I trust. I went through a wave of people that abused my trust, obviously, and now I've been able to establish certain things in Africa and in Cameroon, Nigeria, well, a little bit Nigeria, and South Africa as well. I think those three countries are easier for me because I've kind of like got family members over there. My mother is from Nigeria, and so I've been able to put in some a very strong base in those countries. And so even the people I work with, when they want to work in those specific countries, you know, I already know how to guide them and who they can work with and so on.
Okay. What would you say, what country out of those three would you say is the easiest for you in business wise?
Oh, South Africa. Yeah, South Africa.
But would you say that's also the same country that has the most potential? And when I say that is, I was going to go to live in South Africa. but then it was a toss-up between South Africa and Kenya. Now, for health reasons, I prefer the heat. So I ended up in Kenya on the coast specifically.
Yeah.
But what I found for myself was that business potential is more when it's undeveloped. And I was wondering what experience you had.
Yeah, that's why I had to pause and think about it. Potential, I'll definitely say Cameroon. If I had to choose between those three countries, some of the countries where I really encourage people to go to are countries such as Kenya, Botswana. Depending on your risk appetite, those countries, the risks are very low because they've put everything in place to encourage entrepreneurship, to encourage investment, to encourage people to come in and actually Ghana as well recently. But those are the countries with the lowest risks. But potential, when you talk about potential, you also have to think about risk. That's why I went there. There's a lot of untapped resources in Cameroon. Most French-speaking countries, but for maybe Congo, you know a little bit about the situation in Congo. I mean, Congo is the richest country in the world when it comes to resources, mineral resources, and we know what's going on there. And you know, it's a pity what's going on there. But yeah, resource-wise, most most French-speaking countries. I'm sorry to categorize them that way, but most countries that were colonized by France or Belgium, they have immense resources that have not been tapped into yet. There's a lot to do in those countries. I mean, you just go into one of those nations in any African country and I just see businesses everywhere. I mean, I walk into a shop or a store or whatever, the way the staff, you know, handles the business. I already have a business idea, you know, how to train staff workers to to encourage the clientele to come back into the shop. And you know, you look on the road, the streets are dirty, and you already think about the business. How can I rally a few young people together and we clean the streets, and before you know it, that's a business. I mean, there are so many things you can do. Again, this morning I was listening to one, I'll call him a brother, who does YouTube videos and who talks about kind of like the same things. And he was talking about fruit juices, I think you said that in English. But yeah, he was talking about that, and he said that this is a multi-million industry if anybody can get into it, which he's getting into it already. And he was talking about some other lady in Sierra Leone, I think, because one thing that happens in Africa is that we have so many fruits and so many, you know, trees that produce these fruits, and these things are things that you can't preserve, because in Africa we don't use preservatives and things like that. So it's all really good stuff, and within a day or two they've rotten and it's gone. You can't sell them anymore. So you've got all these farmers and all these what you call them, people who produce these things, who then cannot find a way to make profit out of what they've got. And so if only they had people who could help them, middlemen or even investors who could come in, help them with these fruits. He was talking about some machinery that you can get from Italy really cheap, that would then compress the fruits within a day or two, and then you can transform that into fruit juices, natural fruit juice. And that's a big major industry. You know, you can even export it abroad. It just depends on your vision. So there are so many different ideas, so many different things that you can do, even with a small budget, with a small capital, well, depending on what you call small. But yeah, there's different ideas, different industries. You look anywhere and you have an idea of a business you can start.
What do you miss about England? And it's a reverse question, but I'm gonna. There's a reason why I asked this.
What do I miss about England?
Yes.
If I'm being 100% honest, it depends on which part of Africa I'm at. If I'm in South Africa, you almost have everything you can want. From let's say being in London, being in Johannesburg, you can find almost everything, to be honest with you. The one thing that's hard in for example, South Africa is moving about if you don't have a vehicle. it's a bit like the US. It's really not a luxury. It's something that you need to have, because the public transport system is really not well organized over there, and London's public transport is amazing. It's top notch. So you don't need to drive in London to go around. It's pretty easy to commute. My friends, my friends, family that I have in the UK, I would say that
No, no.
I totally no. To be honest, I love London. I love London, and if I had to choose, if I had to do things all over again, I would still pick the UK to go and further my studies at, or to move. If I wanted to relocate somewhere, it would still be the UK. I absolutely love London. I mean, people are polite, people are very respectful. It's a nice country. If I have to compare to the US, for example, I do love the UK. But the shops, maybe. I love shopping,
No, no,
but
yeah.
again, I can shop in Johannesburg.
Yeah,
But
okay.
if you compare, for example, with Cameroon, then you will see the difference. It's really hard, because there are a lot of things that we take for granted over here that you would, well, once you're in a country such as Cameroon, which is an amazing, I mean, it's my home, then you start missing certain things when you're in countries such as Cameroon, or other other areas on the African continent, which is, for example, I was talking about with someone about e-commerce. This is things that we need to develop more in certain African countries, being able to have access to some products that you want, faster than having to ask a friend, oh, are you coming to Cameroon soon? Can you bring me this? Or when if you're in Nigeria, are you coming to Nigeria within the next month or so? Can I send you money? You get me this? We're still doing such things in Africa, but we could actually have e-commerce websites that we build where we can help people get those products pretty easily. And these are different ideas that I talk about with potential clients or clients that I have.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Now, I asked the question because
Mm-hmm.
the way you answered it, you really, I think you and I are really on the same page.
Yeah.
You can't, in what you did, you can't talk about Africa as like it's a country. It depends on where you are and also what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So, that was a great answer.
Mm.
What was it's a bit similar to another question, but what was your biggest trial while investing in Africa?
The biggest trial.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's sometimes you would feel disappointment. Sometimes you feel abused a bit. Having someone you trust turn out not to be what you thought. We're all talking about business here. So that was, yeah.
We're
So
talking
that
about
was,
business here.
yeah,
Business.
nothing
Okay.
else.
Okay.
So that was kind of like, I think that was the major thing to me. But again, I was in Cameroon for over 2 years. I really persisted. It was tough, and I didn't give up. I mean, there were days where I was thinking, what the flip are you doing here? Get out. But most days were I had the best time ever being there, going back, because when I went back, I saw the country in a different light. I saw the country not the way I did when I was younger, because even when you are born in a country, most times you just know the city where you were born. It's like being in London and never going anywhere outside of London. It was the same thing. Yaoundé, because I was born in Yaoundé. Yaoundé, that's where I grew up most of the times. And then maybe Douala, Kribi, where the beach is, and that's it. Nothing else of the rest of the country. And so having done this tour and I discovered my country in another light. And having been out, you appreciate more what you have at home, family, this love. You can talk to your neighbors, you can pop in and talk to somebody without, having to ask them for their permission before you knock on their door. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, people are always out. Some of my friends came to Cameroon to visit me whilst I was there. They came actually twice. And I mean, they couldn't sleep. We went to Douala and they were out every day. One of my friends started taking, he had never been to Africa. He was taking bikes, going on his own. I was like, who do you know over here? Why you just, who do you think you are? You know,
Yeah.
he was so happy and just going around. And, you know, you can wake up at 2 a.m., especially cities such as Douala, you can wake up at 2 a.m. and there are people out there doing stuff. And it's just so much fun. And, you know, you can sit down anywhere. Someone will give you a beer. Yeah, drink with me. And, you know, people are just so cool, so laid back. It's true that the laid backness sometimes is a problem, but, you know, we kind of like, all right, you know, yeah, I mean, the country's poor. We have a lot of issues, but, you know, whatever. Let's chill and be happy.
Yeah, it's not all about the money. At the end of the day,
Yes,
I think that's one of
exactly.
the downfalls of London and
Yeah,
any major city.
yeah.
If
Very
you just rush for the
capitalistic.
money, you lose the family, the
Yeah,
culture, the community element,
exactly.
and things like that. Mhm.
Mm.
So you kind of lost. I've just lost track there just slightly. Um, what was the catalyst that made you invest? What made you made the move? There must have been something that you just thought, I've had enough, or I just need to try elsewhere.
Yeah, it was mainly that. I was tired of just arguing with people, and I was arguing mostly with Black people, Africans, you know, African descent, and those were the most people I was arguing with because they, sorry, just a second, because they always had these views of the African continent and these views of their countries and this sort of I won't say shame, but this way they look down on the African continent. And I just hated that. And I used to have, I won't say heated discussions because I don't get into stupid arguments, but I mostly had this discussion sometimes with people where I I needed to show them that there's a different face. I wasn't angry at them because at the end of the day, it's not their fault. It's what the media tells them. It's what they see on TV. It's what's related to them 24/7. So you can't really blame people for the way they see the African continent. You know, it's just like the coronavirus situation. You know, they only talk about the number of people who are sick, who are dying. They don't talk about the number of people who are recovering. They don't show those people. They don't show the improvements that are going on. And so it was kind of like I won't say it's the same thing because you can't even compare. The way they really describe Africa abroad is just disgusting. And so I felt like it was my responsibility to show them that there's a different face and it's a different side to the African continent. And instead of sitting there insulting the continent, you can actually do something about it. You can help, you can invest. Because as I said, you know, you can have a passport as red as blood and you would always be seen as a foreigner, or you, at least even if you're seen as, let's say, British, but you're still Black, if you see what I mean. You would
Second
always have
class.
this, yeah, you would always have these identity crisis issues, you know, where you're not really sure of who you are, and sometimes you're like, I'm British, and then you have a white person tells you like this, or you nigger, or you know, and so you, but no, but I'm from here too, or they would tell you go back to your country. No, but I was born here though. What do you mean go back to your country? I am British. Do you see what I mean? And so it was a way for me to give back to my brothers and sisters, to give them more power, if you will,
Mhm.
show them how no, the continent is not the way they've been telling you. It's actually pretty cool. And that's why I really love what most people are doing, for example, with Ghana, the whole year of return, and all these people who are going back to the continent and seeing a different side to what they've been shown all these years. And so that's really important. That was sort of like another reason why I wanted to do this.
What are your future plans in growing your organization in Africa?
Mm-hmm. So the next step is really working on the African continent. So over here, coronavirus. So we were really working on different events over here where we would have more people, more events where we'll actually talk live with people about their concerns, their issues. They can ask us questions and we'll answer them, we'll help them. They'll, whatever they want to work on, whatever ideas they've got, we help them actually make the move. Because you've got this wave of people who are doing sort of like African tourism, helping people discover the African continent by being tourists. And so we're trying to bring a new vague, which is, okay, we help you discover the African continent as an investor, as an entrepreneur, as a business person, as whatever, So that's what kind of like what we're trying to do at the moment. That's the direction we're going into. And when it comes to the continent itself, because this is on the diaspora side, but when it comes to the continent itself, we are also working on having a lot of entrepreneurial sessions. You have countries such as Nigeria where Nigerians are born entrepreneurs. They can hustle their way out in and out of any form of business. But most French-speaking countries, for example, we're not very entrepreneurial. We do go to school, we have degrees, and then we look for jobs. And obviously, you know how it is, there are no jobs. And so at the end of the day, people are suffering because they're not really sure how to go about life if they don't have a job. And so we're trying to work at creating these short courses where we can help people start businesses, or at least teach them how to start business, how to get an idea of a business, for a business, how to develop that idea. Forget about the capital, don't think about it yet. First of all, get an idea, develop the idea. How can that make money? How can you go about actually bringing it to life? And then what are the requirements? What do you need? And so on and so forth. So that's kind of like what we're trying to do with most French-speaking African countries, bringing that entrepreneurial culture, that spirit. If the government won't give you a job, you create a job, you do something, you give a job to your neighbors, your friends, the people around you. If they won't provide businesses for you, here, you can do it on your own. You can do it this way. You can work this way. You don't need millions. Just start this way, and this is the result you're going to get. And then obviously we will also put money into the best ideas, or into the best business ideas that we get from these courses.
That's good. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
How did your loved ones, family and friends deal with you moving and investing? So you're just leave. For me personally, I had quite a bit of resistance from certain family members.
Yeah. It was funny. First of all, my family members know that once I decided to do something, I'm not that's it, I'm doing it. But it was weird because most of my whole family, my immediate family, has now left Cameroon. They're all in South Africa right now, in Johannesburg. And so they didn't understand it. They were like, you're going to go back to Cameroon on your own and actually live there. Why are you doing this? Why are you living your life in the UK and everything you've built and whatever you've got going on there? Why would you do that? So it was kind of not easy to explain that to them, but it was just something I had to do, and they believed in me, and my people in the UK understood it, and they were supportive. So yeah. Because I think they already kind of knew the way I think about things, and because, like I said, we'd had a lot of discussions and a lot of different form of arguments on these topics. So when I came up with that, they were like, let's let her do what she wants to do, before she starts screaming out. But yeah.
You said some of your friends had come to visit you in Africa. Is there any that have had this? You've had total resistance to this. I'm not coming. I'm not. Like, I could give my parents are Jamaican, so we're real. There's a real slave mentality in the sense of quite a few of the families, sadly, especially ones in America, just disregard Africa. Why would I want to come here? All that kind of flies and swollen belly.
Yeah.
You don't quite believe everything. Did you get any of that? Some friends who are still just resistance, they're not going to go?
Oh yeah, a lot. And it mostly stems from, because most of them are, those who are from African descent, they have Nigerian parents, for example. I didn't know about the Jamaican or Caribbean issues with Africa until I actually came to the UK. I really didn't think it was that serious, but yeah, now I discovered it. And
it's 400 years of mindset changing.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you still have that, why would you want to do that? And diseases and poverty and this and that. And I actually made a video on my YouTube channel where I talk about that. And, yes, you still do get that to this day. But it's funny because once, like, for example, Nigerian music or Nigerian cinema started blowing, you now have these people who are like, oh yeah, well, I'm from Nigeria, my parents are from Nigeria, and I'm like, oh, but a few minutes ago you were not from Nigeria, you were British, you didn't want to have anything to do with the African continent. Now suddenly, you see them wearing all these Ankara outfits when they go for parties, and and back in the day it wasn't that way. The further away you can portray yourself to be from the African continent, the better. But the mentalities are changing, definitely changing, especially with the new wave of African or Nigerian mostly musicians and actors and celebrities and all of that.
I think it is just that as Caribbeans, we come to England, we probably had about 10, 15 years on the rest of the continent in getting to England. So we also obviously adapted from this whole slavery time, and now the Africans who have come have actually caught up, and they know how to market themselves in a way. It's like the Afro beats, it's got a bit of everything from Black culture across the Western world.
Oh yeah. A lot of them do a sort of like reggae as well,
and so people can kind of it's a bit
relate,
different, but I can. There's a bit in there I like, so I'm okay. I'm okay with it. It's cool in the gang kind of thing.
But you, as a Caribbean, how did you come about all of this? What made you want to do this?
My story,
or do you want it to be the topic of another day?
I think I was going to say, this is obviously more than a collaboration, but just to give it a brief, I ended up, after my time in the military, I ended up doing private security. And apart from going to North Africa, I was started to get posted at ports to work on these vessels off the coast of Africa, and like from Durban, Beira, Mombasa, Sudan, North and South, Yemen, and I was dotting all over the place. But we can always have a
well, we definitely will the other way around. But it's pretty interesting. It's really, as you know, it's rare to hear about someone from the Caribbean, who's so interested on the African continent. That's
there's
really
a lot
amazing.
of us, there's a lot of us. Obviously Ethiopia is full of Jamaicans. Kenya, we've got a Jamaica Facebook. And
oh, nice.
There's a lot of us. There's quite a few of us, and they're actually well established and stuff. And they, unlike other cultures, they've married into the African culture. So they've married an African woman. They haven't. But there's only one or two who may have brought their wife, who's, let's say, Black British. It's not like some other ways of doing things. So
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
I said we do the collaboration.
I would definitely need to learn more about this. That's amazing.
So, what I was going to say, regarding your friends who did come, and I ask this because of the listeners, their mindset before and after, how would you say that has changed? You spoke about the guy who got in on what we call in Kenya the borders. I think that's taxi, motorbikes.
Motorbike taxis.
A bit of a death machine. Rider, but
I mean, it was an experience. Obviously, it was an absolutely amazing experience. They didn't want to take taxis, and you just discover. It's like an awakening kind of thing, even the food. Oh, I don't want to tell you about Cameroonian food, but the food is, so that was a major highlight. The food, the people, just the general atmosphere of the place. So they came in thinking, oh, let's go and discover that. Well, we're going for Jenny. We're just going for Jenny. And then once they were there, it was something different. So. That was beautiful. It was beautiful. I was really happy, and they came back. So it means something worked.
I had same with a friend from school. He's actually from Ghana, and he decided he was going. He only came over because his girlfriend was from Uganda, and he decided he's going to pop over to Kenya to see me, because obviously they're neighbouring countries for those who don't know. And he wouldn't get on a border, and I had to kind of. It says, listen, there's little techniques. Look at the driver, see if he's drunk, see if he's under influence of a cat. And then If
If it
his
looks
bike,
normal.
yeah. If his motorbike's in a bad way, it's got dents.
Mm,
Don't get on there, and
yeah.
try and pick a more mature guy because the young boys are boy racers. And
Yeah.
then next thing I know, he's just going off. He's going here, going there, going
Yeah.
everywhere. And he's been back to Kenya 3 times.
Oh wow.
Sorry, that's a
Okay,
lie.
he caught the bug.
Yeah, he went. The third time he had
Hmm.
to cancel because the virus just kicked in. I thought he'd thinking
Oh
he'd be
no.
clever and he'd book a flight because it's cheap, which I actually thought of it.
Yeah.
But then when he heard about the holding time for 14
Mm,
days and it's a
yeah.
cost,
Yeah.
he chose to stay. And
It's really sad. I saw some images as well from Cameroon where they were being held and they weren't too happy about the conditions in which they were being held, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
it's
Yeah.
life, isn't it? Yeah. If
Yeah.
you're going there for business or
Exactly.
something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would be your advice to someone who wants to invest in Africa?
Very good. I like the question. Number one, do not base your decisions or judgment on other people's experience. Don't do that. Big mistake. Definitely use it to make your own decision. You can collect the information, but do not make your decision based uniquely on that. Because again, people go to Africa for different reasons. Maybe because they've got family there and then they were abused by family members, or I mean, when I mean abused, I mean financially or business-wise. They made the wrong decisions. Maybe they weren't well prepared. Maybe the business in which they wanted to invest in is not has nothing to do with whatever you are interested in. The countries might be the country where they wanted to invest might be different to the country where you want to invest, and the situations are different. There are so many different variables, so you cannot base or completely make your decisions based on other people's experience. That's a huge mistake. You have to, before making your first step, be well informed. I mean, you have to do your own research, read as much as possible, research as much as possible, talk to people as much as possible. If you cannot afford the services of somebody who can help you, then try to get in contact. Now it's so easy with social media. You can really get in touch with someone on social media who lives in whatever country you're interested in and talk to them. There are a lot of issues with people trusting family members where, you know, they felt this abuse and stuff like that. And so you might not want to go that route, but you can get in touch with people on social media if the person looks like someone serious, if maybe they're also into business, or, you know, it depends. You can ask them questions. Don't start making business with them, sending them money or whatnot. No. So that's one advice. The second one, well, third one is that there is a lot to do, and doing business in Africa is like we said earlier on, it's not just about money. It's about, whenever you're investing on the African continent or doing business there, you are making real impact. You're making a real impact, just by employing someone, you know, helping them put food on the table for their family, you know, changing their lives. They'll be able to put their kids to school. And I mean, giving a job to someone in most African countries is really changing a whole family's life in most cases. And so, besides the financial benefits of making business in Africa, you are also changing lives, you know, which is, I mean, it's the greatest gift you can think of, because most Western countries are, you know, it's capitalism, you know, it's all about money and it's all about making money, and, you know, we don't care about the people. I'm not saying that's what most of them think, because, you know, but in Africa, you're really making a real change. You're really making a difference when you invest on the African continent. So I always encourage people, don't be arrogant, don't be ignorant, don't, I mean, be informed, go there thinking of helping people, thinking of changing the world, making money. Think about that too, because that's what you want, so that you can help more people, create more businesses, develop your business. And, you know, so yes, you do think about that. But there are a lot of avenues now. It's not the way it used to be before, even with corruption. I've also got another video on my YouTube channel where I talk about that, how to go about doing business in Africa despite corruption. And, you know, then people will tell you about instability. Oh, that country is not stable, blah blah blah. What country is stable, right? what country can you say stable? Now with coronavirus, we now saw that nowhere is safe. You can't say that, oh no, I'm not going to Africa because it's not safe. It's not safe anywhere. You know, we've seen the number of attacks that happened in London, you know, London Bridge and Westminster. You know, you could be walking about and something happens. These things happen everywhere. And not just in Africa. The issue with Africa is that they only report the bad and not the good things that happen, the amazing things that are happening, even with the African Union, you know, with the free trade zone. And there are so many amazing things that are happening on the continent, and you can take advantage of that. Right now in Africa, with most African countries that signed the free trade agreement, if you start a business in a country that's a member of the union or the zone, you can expand your business in the other countries that are members of the zone as well. That's absolutely amazing, you know. And so those are the different things that you need to find out about, that you need to know about. It's not the way it used to be before, where it was like a myth, you know. Doing business in Africa was like something never heard of before. It's doable. You don't need to relocate. You don't need to leave whatever you have going on abroad or in whatever country you live in to relocate where you want to do business. There are so many different, there are agencies that can help you with, you know, even your paperwork. With most countries such as Ghana, you can register your business, upload your documents, I mean, do every single thing online. And within days, I believe 3 or so days, you get all your documentation, you're registered, you can kick off, you can start your business. You do not need to travel to actually get that done. And that's the case for most countries. A country such as Cameroon, they've now created something for medium and small businesses. They've created an agency called the CFCO, where you can actually get all your documentation done in one place. You don't need to go to different ministries, like back in the day, you have to go to this person. When I was doing it back then, that's what I had to do. I have to go to this office, to this ministry, to that ministry, to this one, to this person, just to get all my documents together, signed, stamped, whatever. Right now, everything is done in one what they call one-stop shops, where you get everything done in there. And so things have been made so much easier. It's not the way it used to be before. There's a lot more information that we can give to the people, but yeah, these are kind of like this is the advice I'll give them, basically, with the minutes that I have.
Thanks for that. Just on that note, from my understanding, Rwanda's at the top for that. You can register and do everything all in one day within 24 hours.
Yep.
Yeah, I know Rwanda's really at the peak for security, because the president or dictator, however you want to call him. So
however you want to call him.
I love him. I think he's great.
I do too. Yeah. And what I always say is that, listen, I don't care about somebody's past. Not that I don't care. I understand what happened, and I understand the pain that some people are carrying. I totally do. But for someone like me, I see what he's done in his country. I mean, it's mind-blowing. You know, they're just coming from a genocide, and look at them now. He's the one now bringing all the African presidents together to create all these things, and look at how he's transformed his country. He's brought them together, and there might still be issues, because being from Cameroon, I know that there are underlying issues, even though we smile with each other.
And there's gonna be.
It's gonna be. You can't expect.
The people aren't dead yet, and sorry to cut you there. I say, as in the people who had those scars, they're not dead.
They're still there.
It's like SA. And when all the apartheid people die off, then it's going to really become a better place. But
that's a great way of seeing things. I never thought about that way.
And you've got the die-hard baby boomers of the apartheid who just come to England and Australia.
Yeah.
I meet them all the time. But when they're leaving, I have no problem them leaving. Yeah, go back to Europe. Obviously, your heart wasn't really in Africa.
It wasn't really in there, yeah.
And the remainers are going to be the people who build the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I always talk about Rwanda, because to me, I mean, this guy is just, I mean, I made a post on him on my Instagram page where I kind of listed the different things that he's done, and I'm not praising him, but yes, he has done a lot of wonderful things, and I absolutely, he has my respect, and I wish more African presidents were that dedicated to their people. Being from Cameroon, I know something about that, but it's a topic of another day. But yeah, you have to appreciate such leaders.
Okay. Well, my last question is, and I definitely know the answer to this one.
Okay.
Is, if you had to do it all again, would you?
Of course. I'll probably do it sooner.
That
But
was
yeah,
actually
I'll
a
do it.
question. That was actually a question I missed out. Would you wish
Yeah.
you had done it earlier?
Yeah.
You've answered that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm sure our listeners have learned a lot from your experience. Should anybody want to find you, what social media platform are you on?
I'm on all the different platforms. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Instagram, my handle is what is it? SABIA Africa. So not SABIA Africa, SABIA Africa. So SABIAFRICA #1. So that's my handle on most social media platforms.
Okay.
Twitter as well.
Okay. Thanks. So to the listeners now, thanks for listening. I'm happy to hear your comments. Like and subscribe. We also have a sister podcast, which is actually called Taxi Chronicles, because in my spare time, I do the dreaded Uber, and I meet and network with many, many people from all walks of life, and they all have something to say, and they share it for 5 to 10 minutes. If you want to be a guest on this show, feel free to give me an email. It's very simple. It's just the name, africainvestingstories@gmail.com, and I will get back to you. Thanks a lot, and over and out. Aha.